Okay, let's go ahead and start. I'd like to welcome everybody to Cal Exit 11. Daniel Costa is not going to be the moderator today. He had something else to do, but we are being recorded, so you should be aware you're being recorded. Like all of the Cal Exit conferences, this is our 11th one. We've done 10 of these. This is our first bi-weekly one. So they've usually been one a month. So that means we've been doing this about 10 months. A lot of communication. You can watch these things. They're a great source of information for everybody and training. And a lot of people get to practice their speaking here and get better at how to explain what we do to the public and the news. So a lot of progress. We've developed a lot of people at these conferences. We've shared a lot of information. And anybody can watch the videos, reporters or future activists, and find out who we are and what we're talking about. Today, we're going to do a little bit differently. Typically, the Cal Exit conferences looked at a issue or a couple, and we had panel discussions on those. This one, we're going to change it up. We're going to cover current news, reactions to current news, and then scenarios of the future that could happen. And if that happens, what do we as a movement say? So we'll get to that in a few minutes. First, we're going to have a Declaration of Independence speech by Matt Owens. Matt made this speech, and then we're going to have an awesome video on early California edited by MIYAMOTO, and then we'll get into business. So, Matt, could you tell us, in a few minutes, read the speech, tell us what it is?
Okay, well, basically, what we have is tomorrow being Memorial Day. Memorial Day began as a mourning, really, of the dead of the Civil War, of the U.S. Civil War. So that's the basis of my speech, which is the following. Today we mourn the horrors of the Civil War, which pitted Americans against one another. There are those who accuse the California liberation movement of fomenting such a civil war. In fact, our intentions are exactly the opposite. Deep divisions between California and the U.S. as a whole host of irreconcilable differences, okay? And deep divisions exist. Separation of California from the United States is, in our view, the only viable path to vouchsafe our values and keep the peace between California and the U.S. Our compatriots in the Baja Peninsula are equally convinced that they too must separate from Mexico so that the horrors of the wars of the reforms and Mexican Revolution will never be repeated, so they can vouchsafe their values peacefully as well. Therefore, we seek to liberate and reunify our country, which we proclaim before the world is and has always been Gran California, the country of the future, in defense of the planet and humanity. In 1824, the Central American states were allowed to leave Mexico. In 1946, the Philippines were granted their independence from the United States. They too were former Spanish colonies, as was California. If these countries were granted independence, why shouldn't we be? The Cold War was ended peacefully by events which proved to the world that what we seek can be achieved without bloodshed. In 1989, Germany was peacefully reunified. This is precisely what we seek to achieve for Gran California. In 1991, the Soviet Union was dissolved without bloodshed, well, almost without, following years of de facto independence from Lithuania. We hope to likewise inspire the dissolution of the empire the United States has become in favor of a commonwealth of independent North American states. If war is once again brought to North America, we'll not bring it. California won't bring it. The country which first flew the Red Star of Liberation on the white flag of peace in 1836 now probably flies that flag again. We're not going to start a war. But if war is made upon California, we, like the Irish, the Vietnamese, and so many others, we will prevail. It is our fervent hope that our fellow North Americans will see the wisdom of peacefully parting the ways with us, and one day will understand that the merit of our values and our way of life. Until that day comes, we declare before the world our right and sacred duty to liberate and reunify Gran California so that the light of liberty, justice, and democracy will never be extinguished. Viva Gran California Libre.
Órale. Okay, awesome, awesome. Okay, Hannah, I was really impressed with this video. Matt, great speech, great declaration, and Matt's always on it with the holidays, and that's something we need, the movement need to do. We need to have marketing ideas for holidays. So Matt, awesome work, recognizing there's a holiday coming out, figuring out a marketing angle, and just getting it out there. Absolutely what we as a movement need to be doing. If you have a marketing angle or you something, just do it. I'll back you. Everybody will back you. Great work, Matt. So Hannah did the same thing. Hannah made a great little video. She took a longer video and she edited into a nice short thing that gives you an idea of 70 years ago,
Yeah,
California was already seen as different from America and something very unique. Take it away, Hannah.
Hi there. Yes. So, okay, everyone hear me? So, yeah, this is from a 1947 educational video called "This Land of Ours," and it was actually produced in California. The Dudley Pictures Corporation, which produced a lot of educational films that you probably all saw in school, no matter where you grew up. And I actually found it on YouTube because I was interested to see when did people stop calling Los Angeles, which probably is the closest pronunciation to what it really should be in Spanish. And it turns out my research was probably around 1960s. It wasn't until the 60s that it became Los Angeles universally. You know, like in Dragnet, right? Where they say, right? I'm a cop. I work in Los Angeles, California. So it's Los Angeles. So it's actually that. And the other thing was, a couple of other things in the process was, I want to let you listen to. Number one is, as Marcus said, yeah, they do point out very briefly that California is large and so diverse and so the resources, it could in fact exist by itself without the United States of America at all. This is 1947. 1947, they say this.
Oh,
yes.
This is okay. And the number two, the other three thing is the fact that you can laugh and show because what they actually show the United States Mexican border, and they call it one of the friendliest borders in the world. This is 1947, however. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Marcus, can you do that? Can you fix that?
I have no controls over this at all.
We've always been able to do that.
I don't have them. Daniel had them. Daniel's not here. Daniel said that
okay,
he
well,
gave
don't worry.
open permissions.
Let me take a very quick look. I think what I can do is we can just sort of watch it ourselves, or just put the URL and we can all just watch it run home maybe. How about that? I think if we turn all our sound off, it should be fine. Because it is on YouTube. If I will.
Send the link.
Yeah, you could post the link in chat.
I'll post the link in chat, but I'd like it if everyone watched it and we could comment about it for a moment. Because I think I put a lot of effort into it for starters. and you could see how, what kind of research I'm focusing on, right? Yeah, I have a playlist called Los Angeles with a hard G. Because, oh Christ's sake.
Yeah, in 47, it was an open border with Mexico, wide open. I mean, people came back and forth as they wanted to. There was no issues. There was no problems. There was no.
Yeah, it was very common. And
Mexicans didn't want to stay here. They don't want to be here because they don't speak the language. They want to come here, do their work, and go back home. And everything was great until Reagan came around, I think.
Yeah, that's basically it. And I think it's important to realize that because of the fact that, it's too easy to fall into the trap of believing that whatever the current situation is what exactly has to be.
Hey, the main streets of both Mexicali, Calexico, and Nogales were the international border. It was the main street. You cross the street, you're here. You cross the street, you're there.
Well, not only that, and even other things like Southern Pacific Railroad, which is San Diego, Arizona, and Eastern at the time. But I mean, that long story. But they actually, I mean, that a lot of railroad traffic used to go down from San Diego into Mexico, through Tecate, and then back up and towards Yuma.
Yeah, that's the old line. It's still there.
That's
by
the
the
old
way.
line. It
Yeah,
hasn't
it's
been,
still
and
there.
right, and they want to reopen it, but it probably can only get reopened as a branch line in Mexico, because trying to cross the border twice and all the rest is just impractical.
Yeah. Now I've ridden the ranch from Tijuana to Tecate, and it feels like it's been there since then. Sway, bow, you know.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
maintain it. Okay, they maintain it.
Well, I guess
So-
I guess
Did you
I
post a
must
link?
have. I'm sorry. Post the link. Yeah, I'm having a little, frankly, a little trouble. I don't know why I thought it was up. It doesn't matter. I think it's enough to say that. I would just simply say I'll post a link to my playlist,
Okay.
and
Oh, your YouTube playlist?
yeah, I have a, like I said, I have a.
Okay.
Sorry, it's
Oh,
another
it's on
one.
your playlist and you can't find it?
So she just-
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't aware of it. I wasn't expecting this to happen because I already have. Maybe I may not have even uploaded it, but I will instead just give you the URL because and you can watch and see for yourself the various videos I found of. And one thing it was, like I said, I originally did this because I wanted to say, hey, I wonder when people started calling, using rather, I would call Americanized pronunciation of Los Angeles.
Mm.
And I found the
This
answer.
land of ours, California, 1947. There it is. I see it.
What?
I'm on your
Yeah.
yeah, I'm on your YouTube channel, and yeah, there it is. This land of ours, California, 1947.
Yeah, that's the whole film. That's 10 minutes long.
Yep.
I cut it all down to 4 minutes because, by taking a bunch of stuff out. And I even have a version that's only 33 seconds long.
Oh wow.
Just a couple of clips. Because, like I said, I think it's interesting. I found film from the 1930s. I found film from the 40s. I found film from the 50s that all use the phrase Los Angeles. And of course, we can't go before 1930 because they didn't have sound movies back then.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was a silent era. But I think it's exciting to
Film.
think that we can do research using, by looking at actual film from historical times and see how people, answering a question like, like that. Yeah, there are people who did, by the way, call it Los Angeles as well. But and I guess I will close and remind you, someone can help me, but I understand there was recently, several years ago, at least a Latina weather woman or something like that on TV in the Los Angeles area who sort of raised controversy because she wanted to keep calling it Los Angeles. But I think that it's something that among many other, you might think
time on their hands to start a controversy over such a thing between you.
Yeah, it's a good point, eh?
Okay.
I will say that I feel that one of the doable ways that we can stimulate consciousness of California is by pronunciations that are closer to the accurate Spanish pronunciation. And Los Angeles is about right. So, and of course, one last thing is it's also California. You don't pronounce the L. You would pronounce the L in English, but it's California, no matter how it's spelt.
Yeah, California.
Just point that out. Those are some of the stuff we maybe can adopt that, but the more we do that, I think it's better. I think it's better to create the consciousness. And frankly, imagine in the world. I should point out that in Hawaii, and didn't y'all pronounce that Hawaii?
Yes.
In Hawaii, the way you can tell the locals from the tourists is how they pronounce the names of the towns and all the other words. Okay? There is no place called Honolulu. It's Honolulu.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
Hey,
so
guys.
just saying that we can do a lot more.
Hey guys.
Let's do it.
Hey, Can we, great discussion, great talk. Love hearing all of it. We're 20 minutes in. I got to go at 2. Is it okay if we move on to the agenda?
Yeah, of course. Let's move on. I just thought,
Okay.
I think we made our point. And maybe
Okay,
probably
great.
provoke some thought about it.
So I want to say thanks to Hannah. She did a great job on the video. She sent out the link. And that's kind of the things that everybody can do is little projects. That video really showcases that 70 years ago, people already knew California was independent. And Hannah took a 10-minute boring video and made it entertaining and designed for now. Matt figured out that there was a holiday coming up and made a speech to get attention. That's the kind of marketing ideas that I love seeing. People just saying, here's an opportunity. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And now it's done.
And I washed your shirt.
Yes, I will get to that in a second. So awesome work, marketing. Just going off housekeeping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to list all the stuff that's going on right now. So anybody watching this is looking for what activities to join. I'll list those off right now. Then we're going to go into current news. I'll list off the current news I know of, and then I'll hand it off to the panel, and everybody will say, well, you missed this, you missed that, and then we'll go to scenarios. So right off the bat, I want to point out that I am working with Hannah on changing the law in California so that they have to acknowledge California history, specifically that 1836 to 1846, California was independent. Hannah and I looked into it. The California curriculum does not include that and doesn't say it. So children today have no idea. Additionally, we know that recently, a few years ago, California changed the law to force all colleges and all public schools to teach LGBTQ heroes. So we know that in the last few years, yes, they can use the law to force all educators to include a subject. Now, Hannah and I looked at that law. They didn't tell them exactly what to say. They just said, you will now start teaching LGBTQ history in California into story, from public schools through high school, through all community and university systems. So we dig back in and go, hey, you're going to acknowledge that California was independent for 10 years from Mexico and that it was illegally invaded. That's all we really want to push right now. There's some differences of opinion on the history after that. The history is horrible, gets really muddy, but everybody agrees for 10 years California was independent, we were legally invaded. Let's focus on that. If you want to work on changing the law so that California kids know the history, see me. Hannah's working on another project. I'm in consultation with Hannah about that. You can see Marcus RUIZ Evans about that. The other thing is that we're starting a marketing idea called bleach the American flag and put a red star on it. So Matt Owens made a video. What you do is you take a USA flag on video, you bleach it when it turns white, and then you write a red star on it, basically creating the California independence flag. We're asking people to make your own videos of you doing that, and we're hoping to get that viral. So here's all these Californians making their California independence flag the month before July 4th. Perfect. So if you want to work on that, see me, see Matt Owens. He did a great job. We're also, HAL LOHR is looking for people who want to blog on the CaliforniaIndependenceMovement.org website. That's the CaliforniaIndependenceMovement.org website. It has a page for every organization. He's looking for people to blog. You can only blog if you're part of that group. So don't call him and say, hey, I want to blog on the CNP page unless you're CNP. All right, so you know what groups you're in. Talk to Hal, start blogging. The other thing is that Hannah started the Cal Lib PAC. That's the California Liberation Movement Political Action Committee. She's looking for writers for the site. And you see Hannah about that. The Political Action Committee goal is to reach out to people who aren't comfortable with secession and get them thinking about it. Basically safe. Talking about how California could be more independent policy-wise. It's a brilliant marketing thing, and it's already working. Finally, there's a cartoon that's going to be coming out, Pixar animation level cartoon. That's a cartoon coming out, Pixar animation level. Hey, Bob, what it's going to be is a bear on the California flag will appear on the cartoon. Pixar animation quality. The bear stands up, walks over, grabs the American flag, pulls it down, puts up the white flag with the red star. We've already hired the cartoonist to do this. You can insert whatever audio you like. So I'm telling everybody right now, picture a 30 to 45 second cartoon, the California flag, the bear automatically becomes alive. He takes down the USA flag, puts up the California Independence white flag, red star. We can insert any audio you want. John Pomeroy's working on this. He's going to have the first script given. But after that, folks, we own the cartoon. We can insert any narrative you want. So if you're like, I don't like what John listed as the narrative, I want you to redo the cartoon with a different line, we can do that. Okay, so cartoon coming, think about what you want to say. Join Hannah's PAC, work with Hannah on reaching out to California legislators, talk to Hal about blogging on the website, make a video bleaching the USA flag, or work with me on changing the law so that we teach California history. There are two other ideas. Joe PAYNE recently joined. Joe PAYNE is a new member. He joined the email group, Joe PAYNE. I met him on YouTube. He's never been involved in the movement, always thought about California independence, and just wanted to get involved. Exactly what Hannah Miyamoto's been saying for the last few years. The market is still there. Never met Joe. He came in. He's like, I want in. Guy already hit it off with Felix. Anyways, Joe today announced that he wants to start his own PAC, another PAC. Now, here's the thing. Totally different from what Hannah's doing. Totally different. So the Cal Lib PAC is focused on reaching out to Californians who aren't sure and convincing them, hey, something to think about. Wise policy idea. Joe wants to start a PAC aimed at Americans, not Californians. And the goal is, so he's not even talking about reaching out to Californians. This is strictly a Red State America pact where it's going to go, hey, you hate us. Why not donate to kick us out? That's his whole idea. So no competition with the PAC Hannah's running. No competition. These are two different PACs. They do very different things for very different people. If you like the idea of reaching out to Red State Americans who hate us and getting money from them, contact Joe PAYNE. And finally, there are some of us who are still trying to get a boycott of Huntington Beach going. Huntington Beach went out of its way to say that they don't support California values and put all of our lives in jeopardy. That's not okay. So I'm not saying anything violent or mean, but there is this thing called a peaceful boycott, and it has been used to change regimes and get people to change their tone. There's also something called corporate, basically, if you boycott a city and they can't raise tax revenue to cover their annual budget, the California government, by law, automatically goes to them and offers them disincorporation, meaning Huntington Beach is obliterated off the map and no longer exists as a city. All of its property would be turned over to Orange County to manage. So the people still get police and fire services, everything they need, but Huntington Beach would be wiped out for the remainder of human history. This disincorporation happens routinely in California. It's happened in 2015 and 2010. Not every city can pay the bills. California says you can't pay the bills, you're wiped out, and the county takes over. So if you want to boycott Huntington Beach to cost them to the point where they have disincorporation, to send a signal to people that if you support Nazis, and you were called the skinhead capital of California twice 30 years ago, and then you went out of your way to say, I don't give a damn what the governor says, let's get people sick, maybe kill them. Yeah, I think you've gone out of your way to say you don't like us. Message received. And here's what we're going to do. So I'm not asking for support. If you believe that it's wrong to be a racist and then hate California values to the point you endanger all our lives, come see me, because I'm fully dedicated to boycotting them and causing disincorporation, and it's perfectly legal and peaceful. Okay, those are the big things.
Marcus, just to speak in support of what you were saying, that it's been done before. That happened a number of years ago to Stanton, a small OC town next to Westminster. They went bankrupt. and they were disincorporated and then reincorporated. They tried to do that to San Bernardino, and they worked out a deal because people in San Bernardino heard that they were going to be disincorporated. And no, no.
Okay.
No. We will.
Well, you can't forget paradise.
And they did it.
Yeah. You all know the examples. Those are things to see me. So, political action committee reaching out to politicians, see Hannah. You want to blog on the website and get it going, see Hal. You want to reach out to red state Americans who don't like us and get money from them, see Joe Payne. You want to modify that or have a script for the cartoon, talk to John Pomeroy. And you want to talk about disincorporating Huntington Beach legally and peacefully, see me. So now we're going to move on to some news, just because I'm trying to get to where everybody comments.
Just real quick, Marcus, really quick. It's becoming unincorporated, not disincorporated. Just FYI on that one. It happens all the time. Yeah, you're right. And just on the meetings, or go ahead, man. I was going to tell you about the candidate thing, but I'll just wait till it comes.
Whoa. Cover the candidate thing. We need to do housekeeping first. Please cover the candidate thing.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm basically done, but the only reason why it isn't up, one, I don't know why or when it needs to go up on the website, and two, I keep getting people wanting to throw their name in. So Stephanie just sent me her info yesterday. I'm still waiting on Jason's picture. So people are like filtering in slowly but surely and throwing their names into this. So when do we want to put it up on the website? When do we want to make an announcement? That's up for discussion. Maybe we can have a meeting on that later. But it's done. I mean, it's two full graphics of a dozen people of Californians going for political office as independent-minded people. And Stephanie's all about it. She's actually taking it serious. So she's one of 4 people now that are actually wanting to win an election. So that's that. I'll get with Hal to find out when exactly he wants to put that up on the site. So
I would put it up now. You already have a page. You already have a website. I've seen your graphics of the politicians. It looks beautiful the way you're presenting everybody. It would look really sexy and hot on that website. Now, here's the thing. You can post it on the website and not announce till later.
okay.
When people go to the site, they can see. We're not playing games. Here's all these people ready to be politicians. Then you do the announcement when you want. But we start advertising, we're there now.
And I can just update the graphic as new people join in, right? Just add the new. Okay, I have to figure that out.
Shankar, for the official rules, the political candidates page is your page.
Yeah.
While Hal is in charge of the site, he does not own that page. You do. So that is your page to put up your stuff on, not Hal's. Now, Hal is the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
But it's a political page for candidates. If you already got candidates and they look nice and they look well addressed and the graphics you made was great, put it up.
Dude,
What are we waiting for? It's your page.
People were coming
your
in.
Page. That's yours. That's your page. Does anybody else have something that I missed? If you're working on a project and you want people to join in, please shout out now. Anybody out there, you're working on a project, really quickly, not super detailed.
I have a question for Shankar, a couple of questions. Shankar, can you clarify, are you trying to organize getting campaign candidates to, does CNP have a existence? Is this going to be a California National Party campaign, or is this just a bunch of independent candidates?
So yeah, CNP is talking about it right now. Of course, they take forever and ever in discussing this.
Okay.
It is with
The next thing I want to, okay, thank you for the clarification. Sorry to interrupt, and I know we had to move along. I'd like to suggest strongly that this campaign to alter and revise California history standards, I think to me would be a really good something that I think all the candidates could be able to support.
Absolutely.
If they knew about it.
Or they're gonna do it.
It would bring unity to a campaign, because I know a lot of people have actually in your movement or your whatever, your program, have a lot of different, even conflicting ideas. But something like education is both doable and something that nobody can argue with, at least if you're
Yeah.
within this movement.
Yeah,
I will.
it's absolutely. Yeah,
I'm
they're all
about to argue with it.
that part up.
All right. First off, I'm going to explain this to you. We need to look at this. I've been going over the website, and we've actually hired somebody to help us go over this website for content and so forth. Thank you, Marcus. The website is currently 16 pages long before the first blog is hit.
Mm.
Damn.
16 pages deep before the first blog, before we've begun to put up content.
Oh, the Holy Bible's more exciting.
Right. So
That gets right to it. In the beginning there was light.
well, this is in the beginning. In the beginning there was light, and then there was 16 pages before we got to the next page. Okay, so the web. So
Sorry.
Yep.
I apologize.
we're going to have we're going to need to reformat some of this website to make it more functional. Until we do that, it's like we need to. I am not saying we should not have the candidates on there. We should do that. We need to keep everything brief, quick, and because honestly, the way the website is supposed to work, and I'm gonna pound this with a hammer on anvil. This site is to direct you to the site where you're going to get more information.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be. This is not the repository of all knowledge. It's the kiosk at the front of the library that points where to go. So we need to keep that in mind. I don't want to. Okay, if everybody understands that, then I'm done with this.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to do with the candidacy. I mean, I still have to do everybody's Facebook page, everybody's Instagram page. This is a lot of work to do with that. So, yeah, I'm directing them away from that. It's to direct them away. It's. You're right. It's CIM page is a.
We need to, for lack of a kinder term, we need to push CMP on this to get them forward. If you need my help, I would gladly.
You want to go to the next leadership?
What we don't want is at that kiosk. We don't want war.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want war. We want everybody on the. We want everybody. We want to shrink the page down a bit, and we want everybody on it.
You know what? They haven't even given an opinion on it, Hal. I mean, I asked them, like, hey, have you seen the CIM page? And then nothing. They don't even like acknowledge that they've seen it or that they.
Well, sometimes it's my job to say the bad stuff, and this is one of them. You know what I'm going to say. If they can't get it done,
we're gonna go past them.
Then we've already done.
Get out of the way
by asking.
All right.
Basically, it's one of those. It's one of those. Come on, guys! You either get on this train or catch the next.
Get out of the fucking way. Yeah.
Catch the next one. We can't sit. Nobody can. If we've done the due diligence, we want their help on this. They hopefully have the infrastructure to make this happen.
Even if they don't, they can build it. It would be a great reason for them to build it, build the infrastructure for.
Exactly, and that's kind of what needs to happen here. It's like, guys, November's coming. I mean, are we going to give up the entire year?
Hmm?
We're just going to hand it off. We're just going to say, are we supposed to just go? Well,
No.
I know we have political campaigns and political candidates, but what's another 4 years of non-California independent
Exactly.
friends?
I'm tired waiting for them.
Well, that's it. It needs to move forward. If they,
I'd like
I would like to have them. I would like to
thing.
have their support on this. I would like to have them on because honestly, they've got everything. They've got everything, or a lot of what we already need.
Jason,
that doesn't necessarily mean we have to wait for them.
Jason?
As far as like the urgency around the candidates and all that, and getting everything kind of finalized for now. For myself, if I am to run for mayor of San Rafael, the paperwork to file
Is when your due date is?
No, that's when the paperwork is made available
Oh,
to the
okay.
city so that I could file. And
All right.
then I've got like 2 months to
To file it.
actually like campaign and get it done.
Yes.
But
Give me that
that
picture,
means
Dave.
that there is almost no time left.
Give me
needs
that.
to be
Give me that
done.
black and white, buddy.
Yeah, I'm about to email you a couple of different pictures. They're
All right.
not black and white though.
Got to be black and white.
Gotta be black and white.
I'll make it black and white. Send it over.
You
Send
can
it over.
filter
I'll make
it.
it black and white. Send it over.
Okay.
Send it over. Thank you.
So yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
No, I agree, Jason. It's like, for me, if I wanted to run for office in Long Beach, here in Long Beach, California, here in beautiful Long Beach, California, I would have had to have filed my paperwork in November, last November.
Mm-hmm.
So we're out. We've already run past a number of windows. Waiting, if we're waiting, if we have to wait much longer, it's like, then technically speaking, the CNP is pretty much putting themselves on a shelf until the next election cycle 2 years from now.
Dude, you know what they're working on? They want Gavin Newsom to visit them or to get on a Zoom meeting with them.
It's not a bad idea. It's a good idea, but I mean,
Practical.
We will do. It's okay. That's great. But
People in hell want ice water.
can we have more? Can we have more than one agenda? maybe as a movement or an organization, they should have more than one agenda item cooking it all at once.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
if I could say one thing, the politics thing and the politicians was also to show that there are members across California and we're not crazy. So I understand there's different deadlines to run, but the whole idea marketing-wise that Shankar excited me about was, here's 30 faces.
Yeah.
They look like regular folks, and they live in Ontario, San Diego, Bakersfield, Kern, and they're going to be running sometime over the next 3 months to a year. Okay, but that page shows me these people are everywhere. They're in my neighborhood. They're my neighbor next door. It doesn't, half of it is you're running for mayor in a month. Half of it is I got a picture of a respectable young man in Marin County saying, I believe in this. So when reporters look at the site and future members, they see people.
Yeah.
Only half of this was actually running for office, folks. The other half of Shankar's brilliance here was we showcase us. We should look at, I'm a regular person. Let's showcase us. You know, and you showcase Isaac Daniel Garcia, who grew up in the hood. And he is a little, you know,
Chickened out.
Mario-ish.
Chickened out, bro. He chickened out, man. He sent me his picture and everything was good. And then he's like, no, you know what? I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I'm like, dude.
That's fine, but it's still the point that we need to get those photos up, in my opinion, for marketing, because it
I
shows
should have
us.
taken it from him. Yeah, you're right. I should have said, hey, bro, too late. I'm taking your picture, man. I'm using it.
And it's IC show, whatever y'all want, but please, Hal and Shankar, it's your call. I have no right to tell you anything, but please don't wait for anybody. Please let them know, hey, the train's leaving. Hope you're on it, but the train's leaving. I trust you guys more than I trust anyone else. I'll leave it there.
In fairness, generally speaking, I'm the only one who's trying to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
Everybody else is in motion.
Yeah, I like to report to Hal.
That's the way that's kind of the way we like it.
Okay, news. Let's move on to news. I'm going to go around the table and ask, what do you think are the two most important stories that everyone in the California independence movement should know about and why? We're going to do round robin. So I'm just blanking out. Shankar, you go first. Shankar, what are the top two news items that happened in the last month that are really significant for California independence? You don't have to have anything. I just want to make sure you have the opportunity.
For California independence.
Anything
So, guys,
newsworthy where you're like, wow, that's a big thing to pay attention to.
So look, the entire United States is falling apart right now. We're seeing the end of the United States, the end of how we're living. If we play our cards right, we can capitalize on this by not saying independence and not saying sovereignty, not saying, we can't use any of those terms, I don't think. But this first wave of this virus knocked unemployment into Great Depression level, 20% unemployment levels, bro. That's the first wave. What's the second wave going to do? It's always been historically larger than the first. Guys, the end of the United States is about to happen here. We need to position ourselves in a certain way where we're not full out yelling for independence and, yeah, we want to be a nation. We got to be discreet about it. We gotta have, maybe claim the states' rights angle a little bit more, but somehow in some way use this virus. It's news every day. Use this virus and somehow gain more power, autonomy, whatever you want to call it, for California, so it can use that to, in the future, get the independence, in the very soon future. So, I mean, if the United States starts collapsing, and all of a sudden California's like, you know what, every state for themselves, let's have our own Supreme Court. Our Supreme Court now is the law of the land, not the United States Supreme Court. Let's let that happen. Now, once that happens, a month later now, or whatever it is, now let's go for the independence thing. But let's not go for the independence thing right off the bat when the United States collapses on this thing, because it's going to collapse, dude. It's going to collapse, man. This is, dude, 20% unemployment in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. The second wave is going to hit this summer. This summer, in a couple months, dude. So I can only imagine. And Trump wanting everybody to open up and do, dude, he's like setting it up. He's like setting it up for coronavirus. He's like setting up for COVID. Here you go, COVID. Here's a nice underhanded softball toss to fucking knock out as many people as you want.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think we should prep for that, including the website. The website should be, hopefully it's done in a couple months when this happens, because it's going to be newsworthy. And we can't as a movement come out with, we want independence, we want sovereignty, we can't say that. We cannot frame it like that. We've got to frame it where states, hey, California wants the right to do this without federal oversight on this and this and that. We've got to put it that way, dude, because you're going to turn a lot of Californians off. Californians are programmed since they were little kids. All of us were. Well, we weren't, obviously. We weren't. The programming didn't take to us. We obviously don't think like that. But our brothers, our sisters, our families, our friends, all were programmed, and they found what we're doing absolutely abhorrent. Right? They don't agree with us because they were programmed. So when this happens and we come out with independence, they're going to get turned off. So I think whatever and this all has to do with COVID news. COVID is news for the next year, guys. Whenever this comes out, we got to position ourselves ready. Hopefully the initiative is written in a way that's not independent. It says independence all over the place. Maybe it gives California more autonomy, more rights, whatever it is. Let's be discreet about it. Let's be discreet. We'll get a lot more people on our side if we don't shock them with the secession, the independence word. So that's my take on the news and where we need to be. So.
Okay, great. We're going to go to Hal, and then Hannah and Matt and Jason. So we'll get everybody. Hal, in your opinion, and great opinion, Shankar, that's exactly why we did this section. But Hal, in your opinion, what's the big news last month? We should all be going, oh, wow, that's key. So HAL LOHR, what's the big news? And then we'll go to Hannah, then Matt, then Jason.
The U.S. GDP is now below the U.S. debt, which means that functional America cannot make enough money to pay off its bills. Which also includes we are spending more now on interest than almost any other single faction except Social Security and the military. So the interest on the debts, the interest on the debt is eating more U.S. money than those two major programs. That is a serious bell ringer. That should be an alarm. That should be alarm bells, and it's not. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and this is simple, and I'd like to address it to everyone here. The phrase goes, "The fight for California independence must know no battles." There's a lot of talk in the news about the boogaloo, about the coming civil war, about the arming up. There's a lot of conversation going on about this. The confrontation in Michigan. There was an attempt in Sacramento, but Newsom was smart enough to call out the CHP, which pretty much is the California State Police, and they would not allow them. They would not allow them onto the steps. Honestly, I wish they'd have arrested them at the time. This is going to get ugly. It's going to get bad, and it's going to get violent. And we must be nowhere near it. Nowhere near it. Conversation about this should probably stop. We can't have conversations where we're talking about where the California independence movement is talking about arming up. Because I can tell you now from experience, Shankar, you can back me, Marcus, you know this is true. If we were there, two things would happen. One is we would be the ones who would get arrested, and we would be the ones who were the bad guys in this scenario. As long as the media is arguing back and forth that these armed people who are showing up at state capitals are out of line, are doing terrible things, that's the best we can hope for. Outreach, activism, protest. These are all viable, valid things we do. I don't want to see anybody, and this is coming from basically the chair of the activist wing of the movement. I don't want to see anybody showing up at any of these events with guns. No guns. This is not cool. This is not, and it's not in sticking with California values.
Yeah, it's not a California value.
We're not going to win this through bloody conflict. No Fort Sumter moments. No Archduke Ferdinand. We don't want any of this stuff happening. Not on our watch. Because all of you are part of my circle of friends too. I mean, do we really want to see this happen to our friends? No. So please take it back to your people. This is not what this is. This is from me, one of the most militant guys in this movement. No guns, no violence. I'm just getting off, Sue. It's all for you. It's all you can speak. I'm done.
Okay.
Okay. I only wanted to say, Marcus, your typing is really loud. Could you mute yourself when you're typing for me? It's really loud.
Sure.
That's all I had, except that I totally agree with Hal. Everything you said, spot on, Hal. Everything. I totally agree with it.
Well, Sue, real quick while I got you. So I'm keeping notes. I've got Hannah pointing out that there may not be a vote. Excellent news for all of us to pay attention to. I've got Hal pointing out that the U.S. for the first time can't give any more money. That's exactly why we did this segment. So it's already working. We got Shankar pointing out, get ready because COVID could be worse. There could be phase 2 coming. Then we got Hal pointing out, hey, they're talking about Civil War II, his recommendation, which is also my opinion. We shouldn't be part of that. So awesome work, Hannah, Hal, Shankar, covering the news. We all need to go. Because again, I'm going to be I'm going to be broken record about this. If our movement is not informing Californians, they aren't being educated. We are the only game in town doing this. So, Sue, What top 2 news items have you noticed, in your opinion, being with the movement for years, that you think everyone in the movement should be aware of?
You all kind of covered it. I got like one more, and it's kind of back to COVID. And I think we kind of have to play off the COVID thing and really use it to our advantage, because I see that rallies are going to be happening today or tomorrow or sometime this week right here in Sacramento and Santa Rosa. And these people are rallying for their constitutional rights because they think their rights are being infringed, since they're not allowed to go to their beaches and churches and hiking trails because of COVID, or they have to wear a mask because of COVID, and they feel like that infringes their constitutional right to reflect the image of God in their faces. Or they're complaining that they don't want to wear a mask because it's making it hard for them to breathe, or it's ugly, or whatever it is. And you know, it as stupid as it is, we have to, you know, show it, that it's that stupid, and that not all Californians are that stupid, and 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 that we're not going to be fooled by a government that keeps saying that there's no COVID. It's a hoax. You know, the numbers are not as bad as they are. And Marcus, your typing is loud again. Can you mute that for me? And we can't, we have to keep informing Californians that it's not a hoax, and it's not going to get better unless we all take steps to make it better. And part of that is that we have to support Governor Newsom, and in taking more power for the state, rather than sitting back and trusting that U.S. democracy will continue to be our God and Savior, you know, and you know, and we can't keep singing its praises just because that's what we've done throughout all of history since we came over here and wrote up a Declaration of Independence and a Constitution, because it was written for the rich, by the rich, white men in our world over here in the US. And it was never really meant for the rest of us anyway. So we need to keep hammering on that for everybody. I'm done. You go ahead,
Okay.
Shankar. Shankar's got something,
The
Marcus.
video that Sue was mentioning about the lady who doesn't want to wear a mask, that's Genevieve. Hal is familiar with her. It's not a bunch of people going to stores and getting upset about it's this one woman.
Well, Trump doesn't want to wear a mask either.
Yeah, it's Genevieve. She's being stupid, and she got traction on it. So good for her. Whatever that caused. The second thing is, Californians don't know that there are 2 huge. They're called Corona camps or COVID camps being built out in San Bernardino, your neck of the woods. My man, Sam.
Yes.
Matt. There's thousands of trailers, like state-of-the-art trailers, a trailer park. I mean, I'm talking about 6,000 trailers, air-conditioned, self-sustained, sealed up, and they're called Corona camps, and that's where they're going to be taking the sick. And there's also one up north in Northern California, over by Lake Tahoe, just south of Lake Tahoe, that they're building right now too. Thousands of them, because they know it's about to hit. So that's all I got to say about what Sue was.
Where is this Corona camp again? In San Bernardino County?
I'll get you. It's in the middle of the field. So think about where the amphitheater is, right? So you know the amphitheater. What's it called?
Orangeville?
No, dude.
Oh,
Before.
Glen Helen?
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
talking about what used to be known as Glen Helen.
Yeah. So you want to look at locations like that. That's where I'll get you the exact location though, bro.
It's like the Hyundai Center now or something.
Yeah. Well, it was that. Now it's owned by San Manuel.
Yeah, San Manuel owns it.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
It's not that location. I'll get you the exact location, bro. You got to think of places like that though in your neck of the woods. That's where they're building.
That Glen Helen is right around the corner from me. I could just It was within a 5-minute drive.
I don't think it's there, bro.
Okay.
But you're think of locations like that. I'll get you the exact location, bro. They're not advertising it, dude.
Huh.
Why would they advertise a huge trailer park that they're building? Nobody's in there. They're empty. Right now they're sitting out there empty. It's done. That project is completed, and all the workers are up north doing the next one. So,
so it's
getting
a
ready for this.
quarantine site.
Huh?
It's going to be a quarantine site.
Yeah, they're called Corona camps or COVID camps.
Yeah, COVID camps. Huh. I'll look it up.
Yep.
Their isolation. I think there's. We learned that from in China. They use that where they had not as nice places for people who were discovered to be infected, and they were taken there, and they were allowed to be isolated that way. People in hospitals who have other illnesses do not get have less risk. I just want to point out nice positive thing that I think if anyone wants to talk about COVID to anybody, to remind them that when this first happened, California was number 5 in the nation. We have number 1 in population. We were number 5 in the nation for actual COVID cases. And we are now number 6.
Mm-hmm.
Other states are not did not respond as aggressively as California, and they are paying the price, and the numbers don't lie.
Nice.
California is
Good
doing,
point.
the things we're doing are making a difference. They are
Hannah,
saving lives and reducing chaos.
Hannah, this camp only backs what you're saying up right now. This camp is a good thing. I mean, it is state of the art.
Oh, absolutely. I support everything the government is doing regarding COVID.
The state government is doing good, yeah.
That's right. And I personally live, by the way, just remind you that if you didn't know, I haven't left this house but 6 times, I think, in the last 3 months because my mother's 90 years old. So, we're getting our groceries delivered. We pick up our, what I mean? It's unbelievable how much I'm prepared to live like this until there's a vaccine.
Okay.
I'm not joking. I'm not serious. I'm serious about it. I'm not leaving this house because my mother has to be protected.
China's got one coming out.
Matt Owens.
Okay, 1 second. I was going to grab something. I don't know where it is. So 86 on that. I was going to grab my mask. I'm a rideshare driver. I mask up. Okay, here I am. Okay, thank you. Couple things. News items.
Top 2 news items. We
Oh, one.
all know about.
Well, the first one is the death of democracy in the U.S. It's coming fast because you have the thing where the move to block mail voting, vote by mail, that's being blocked. It might not be counted come election day, whenever that is. Of course, we all know that the primaries are going to be bollocksed up. By the time the primaries happen, we'll be well into the second wave of COVID. On top of fire season here, on top of hurricane season further east and south, etc. And this is as Trump is trying to force the post office to privatize. So basically, he's doing everything he can, Trump is, to banish vote by mail. He's trying to make it not happen. And that would be a direct throwing of the election. Okay, if vote by mail was blocked by any of these moves, it would basically nullify the election, which gets to a couple of technical points that were raised by a number of you. One was as far as marketing. I'm a red. Everybody who knows me knows I'm a red. But a point I've made over and over and over again to my comrade is that, the same point Marx made. Socialism is such a fraught term. So many people mean contradictory things, like they use it to bash each other over the head if they're not. But democracy is not so fraught. if you ever watch The Great Dictator, not once does Charlie Chaplin say anything about socialism. It's democracy, democracy, democracy. So if we market ours as a movement in defense of democracy, I don't see how we can lose. So yeah, democracy's dying in the U.S. Other news item, which kind of confirms what I was asking the last time. What would you do if Baja took the lead? And you had one or both Baja states declaring independence before us. Guess what? I just read something forwarded and translated. I translated it. Google translated it, actually, from MIBC, that there is a little dispute going on way on the tip of the end in Baja Sur. Okay, our southernmost state. And it's a dispute between the governor, who's a member of one party, and the majority in their legislature, majorities in another party. So they got a little dispute going on over allocation of funds. And the article concludes by saying, well, something's coming up. There's a Baja California Sur holiday in which they celebrate. This is October, by the way, right before November. In October, they celebrate the day when Baja ceased to be a non-self-governing territory, Baja Sur, and became the newest Mexican state. They have that holiday. And they're saying it would be very interesting if the governor of Baja Sur, Carlos Mendoza Davis, took that opportunity to declare the independence of Baja Sur from Mexico. And they cited this as, after all, comma, there is this Cal Exit movement up north who is, you know, campaigning for the same thing. Wouldn't it be interesting if Carlos Mendoza Davis, you know, took that opportunity, and he's already sat at the table with the other two California governors, with the commission and all that. There's another commission meeting due in Loreto, which is somewhere on the Baja Peninsula between, you know, Norte de Baja, one of those. But there's another meeting due, and it was due to be in one of the two Baja states. Wouldn't it be interesting if he took those opportunities to say, okay, enough of this, basta ya, we are going to go ahead and strike out for the independence of Baja Sur, because he knows that immediately that would, you know, put immense pressure, first of all, on the governor of Baja Norte, Jaime Bonilla Valdez, who's in the same party as, you know, the Mexican governing party now. He doesn't have quite the same problem. He's got other problems. We all got COVID problems. And they're looking at, you know, the same kind of chaos in Mexican responses that we have in the U.S. minus one factor, is they don't have a federal government that's been trying to deny that there was a pandemic, and once they did, they're trying to, you know, say, oh, it's not that serious or anything like that. No, they don't have that problem. It's just, you know, federal chaos. Okay, it's not a federal government that's actively trying to, you know, squelch response. No, but it is federal chaos. And so if the governor of Baja Sur, if he leads the way, almost immediately, that means short-term, the governor of Baja Norte, Jaime Bonilla Valdez, has a decision to make. Do you follow the lead of Baja Sur, or do you leave him out to dry? If he follows the lead, then you got both Baja states, and guess who that benefits? MIBC. It's like, you guys now agree with us that Baja should be independent. Are you listening, Governor Newsom up in Alta? Okay. So they have been very, very forthright about, you know, says yes, 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 go, go, go. You know, independence for Alta. And, you know, it's like the day you declare independence, we'll join you. Okay. Now you've got this dispute within the government of Baja Sur that may trigger this. And there's so many other things that may trigger this. The whole thing over voting by mail may trigger this here in Alta. Okay, if Trump tries to not count the mail ballots or tries to torpedo the postal service to where it's not in a position to process the ballots, whatever, that may push Alta into the independence. Okay, so there's so many things that are pushing into independence, and it couldn't come a moment too soon. I heard that one of the top leading opinions in the Yes organization is that we should close California's borders with the U.S. I had a passenger say that to me last night who came from the Philippines. Okay, she said the same thing when I brought up we do have these agricultural inspection stations, and she goes, "We need to close the borders. Those people are crazy."
Okay. I want to keep it on news, but I love the point.
But yeah, those are the two things I think are over. You know, the news is day after day after day is Trump's campaign to end democracy in the U.S. He's doing it on so many fronts, but a lot of it's aimed right at us. The other is on the other side. The movement for the independence of the Baja Peninsula is growing outside of MIBC, and it's now got establishment politicians talking about it. I mean, after all, it was Governor, it wasn't the Norte's Morenista governor, it was the Panista governor of Baja Sur was saying, we should change the name of our state from Baja California Sur to just California. So it's happening fast, very, very fast, all over the place.
All right. Jason Wright. Are you there? Jason?
Yep.
It's Mayor Wright.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Jason, what are the top news items that have happened recently that you think everyone in the independence movement should know about?
Well, there was the economist who had said the thing about, you know, like he didn't say, I support Cal Exit, I want Cal Exit. He didn't say, I don't support Cal Exit or don't want Cal Exit. What he did say was, I think everyone should really look into this and check its feasibility. Meaning, you know, whether I'm for it or not, doesn't matter. It might actually be a good idea and might actually be good. We should check it out and see. And,
Okay,
you know,
that's excellent. That was by Dan Walters. What else, Jason?
Yeah. And with our talks that we had, you had pointed out that, you know, that's not really happened. A top-level economist that's renowned and very highly, widely respected, coming out and saying, yeah, I think everyone should look at it. I've noticed that there's all sorts of, I don't really want to say dissent in the military, because it's not exactly dissent. It is, however, much more dissenting than pretty much anyone has ever been in the United States military since the Civil War. And they're not dissenting against California or because California might seek independence. It's in direct response to Cheeto Face. And the military has kind of always had this unspoken guideline of if you're in the military, you don't really step forward and let it be known what you may or may not think about the commander-in-chief. You keep your opinion to yourself. Now, what we're seeing is an admiral tries to save the people under his command, like a good leader would do. Ends up getting fired for it. Not only that, it ends up getting the cold shoulder from the government that's supposed to be caring for these soldiers that are a part of its military. Gives them the cold shoulder. And so the admiral does the only thing that he can think to do, get some sort of media attention on it, since it's getting like nowhere. It's not going up the chain of command. And he did, and the media covered it, and he got fired. An admiral of the United States Navy fired. That's huge. That's like, oh my God. But what's even bigger is the fact that every single sailor under his command saw him off with honors. Some even cried because he was that good of a leader. They're like really sad to see him go. But also, they very openly, very publicly started stepping up, stepping out, and saying, hey, you better reinstate this guy. He's done nothing wrong. He's done nothing illegal. The only thing that he's guilty of is trying to actually get things done and take care of the responsibilities. And to take care of the responsibilities that are his responsibilities to take care of. We don't hire an admiral and say, oh yes, you can have command of all of these people, but you can't do shit, or can't do anything, right? Unless we tell you to. No, when you make someone an admiral, it's because you understand that they know enough that they can operate by themselves with minimal direction and be just fine. It's a level of trust. And so for this admiral to just immediately be fired, right? Oh, you're making me look bad, but I think I'm the greatest, so you're fired. Like, that's the response from this dude's commander.
Okay.
One of the few people that is higher up in the chain of command than he is. And that's the guy's response to him is, screw off, you're fired. You're making me look bad. And the admiral never said anything about Trump. The admiral only ever said that he tried to engage the chain of command, and it was cold-shouldered. And because nothing was getting done on this ship of thousands of people that are American citizens that are coming down with COVID-19, he did what he needed to do. He was very responsible, and I would shake the man's hand and I would salute him myself if he was here in front of me right now, because that is a true leader. I think everyone should look at, people that do that, stand up. I mean, there's no way that the dude didn't think, oh, well, if I do this, maybe someone might potentially threaten my job. Of course he had to have understood that. There's no way you can be at that level and not know that, slightly stepping over a boundary to get shit done might ruffle some feathers, and maybe someone will, demand that you step down. He had to have known. And he still did the right thing. He didn't say, my job, my title as Admiral of the United States Navy is so much more important than the lives of fellow human beings.
Okay.
So that, I believe, is like one of the most important things to focus on, because it shows that the United States military is, in fact, willing to stand up for what's right and stand up against tyranny.
Okay.
Which can be used to help persuade the fears of, well, what if we declare independence and America comes to bomb us? Well, we've got examples of military of the United States standing up for what's right and doing what's honorable. I think that's a very important thing that we should all kind of be acknowledging. Because it can
Sounds
help
good. Sounds
dissuade a
good.
lot of the fear.
Okay, I'm going to wrap up a few news items, and then we're going to go right to scenarios, which was the big item here. Future scenarios, be thinking about, like, if this happens, what happens? So Matt Owens is right. It is now in Mexico news right now that Baja would prefer to leave Mexico and join with California. So whether or not you endorse Baja joining with California, just know that the Baja people have already ran a poll. They said they'd prefer to ditch Mexico and join California. And it was so popular that Mexican news is now acknowledging that they have states that don't want to be with Mexico and rather go with California. Jason Wright is also correct. Dan Walters is a major policy analyst. He did say recently, for the first time ever, that we should look into secession. Whether or not you're talking about that was huge. There's a French professor this week who acknowledged that California was independent for 10 years, from 1836 to 1846. That's a legit professor in Europe, not American, saying that's what we all know to be true. The Sacramento protest, as Sue Hirsch was talking about with these protesters, the SAC protest scheduled for this weekend was the biggest anti-Newsom, anti-shelter-in-place protest ever. So it appears the let's ignore the precautions protests by people who are not real Californians, as far as I say, are getting bigger. So that's not good. Finally, there is a secession conference. F.H. Buckley is a former Donald Trump speechwriter. F.H. Buckley, we've interviewed him. He did a book called American Secession. Apparently, there's a conference in Washington, D.C. going on this week talking about his book and if secession's possible. So this week in Washington, D.C., a bunch of professors got together and talked about, could you actually secede? They haven't had a conference in D.C. about secession in a long time. So that's this week. Finally, Daniel Costa couldn't be here. He wanted to make sure that we acknowledge that Gavin Newsom said, hey, we're going to open the economy or something. And then he immediately backtracked on that and said it's not till August. And that looks bad because it appears that Newsom is wishy-washy or something. Talk to Daniel. He has all sorts of information about this. I'm not totally sure what he's saying, but apparently Newsom went up there, said one thing, and then backtracked it with coronavirus. Does that look good or bad? Talk to Daniel. Finally, my favorite point was that this week we saw the difference between California Democrats and American Democrats. Now, I am not a Democrat, but the Democratic Party runs California. We got to be friendly with these people. That's always been a tactical opinion of mine. But I've always said California values are different from Americans. I don't care if you're a New Yorker. You ain't a Californian. And I know you're liberal in Seattle, but you don't do it the way we do. So I have seen recently an exemplification of that. In California, if you were a white male running for office and a Latino with an accent approached you and said, hey, you deported a lot of Latinos before. I'm willing to vote for you, but I want you to explain yourself on the mass deportations before. And that old white male looked at that Latino with an accent and said, vote for Trump if you don't like me. Ooh. That man would never run for office, and he would never get anywhere in California at any level ever. Certainly not on the Democratic side. Additionally, if you're an old white male and you go on an African-American radio show and tell them you ain't black and that you are in a position to define who's black, you would never be allowed to run for office in California, and you would be removed. And so in California, we have two instances of the same person who is the top candidate by American liberals and Democrats. And his two actions would have disqualified him on two occasions from having anything to do here in California. So I'm not going to name names. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But it just proves, boy, American liberals will put up with shit we never would hear. Okay, moving on to hypothetical scenarios. So this is the meat of the presentation. We're going to talk about if X happens, what do we say? Now, I've been pushing everybody to do this. We may not do this segment again in the future, but it's something I wanted to try at the group because, frankly, even when we disagree, even when we get upset with each other, you're some of the most brilliant policy analyst thinkers I've ever met. All of you. Hal, Hannah, Shankar, Jason, Matt. I've talked to all of you, and each one of you goes, well, I'm just a regular person doing my thing. Horseshit. Each one of you is a policy expert. Each one of you studied the thing. And until we get politicians and academics and reporters and journalists to do their fucking job, meaning reporting on the issues, it's up to us, people. So you are all brilliant, and I need you to put that hat on, recognizing that you're frankly it. And if you're not educating Californians, you're letting down 40 million people. So with that, we're going to go over a few scenarios. I want to go off the top one that, because Daniel said, hey, we need to look at scenarios. I felt embarrassed when Governor Newsom went on TV and said we're announcing a pact with Oregon and Washington. Hannah had been talking about that for 6 months. I never really took it seriously. So when that goes on TV, my pants are all the way down, and I'm embarrassed because I have nothing smart to say. I don't think it's a good thing for anyone in our movement to be in that situation again. So if something happens, we should have some idea about how possibly to think about it. So in that, guys, we're going to go through these scenarios. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. We're not going to agree. This is so we're thinking about things that may happen. I'm going to go off the juiciest hypothetical scenario that I heard from Hannah. But I'm going to ask, we're going to go round robin. I'm in charge, okay? So I will ask you, please give your opinion for a few minutes, and then I'm going to ask you to stop, and we're going to go to the next person so we can hear everybody's opinion. So this is a scenario I've been hearing from Hannah, and we're going to go round robin. I'm going to ask everybody their opinion on what we say. If Trump, two things. What if Trump wins re-election, and what if he doesn't win re-election and won't step down? So what if Trump wins and he's president, he's boss for 4 years? What if he loses and says, I ain't going anywhere? So another 4 years of Trump. One, he legitimately holds the position. One, he does not. So what is an intelligent thing for the movement to say, in your opinion, if that happens? We're going to go to HAL LOHR first. Hal, please give us some wisdom, and then we'll go around and get everyone's opinion.
Okay. From a movement standpoint, if Trump wins re-election, the likelihood is that and this is my opinion, the likelihood is that he will not win the popular vote again. It will be an electoral college. The response from the movement, of course, at that point is, see, your votes didn't count again. As long as it stays as it is now, your vote will never be important. If Trump loses and won't step down, I'm sorry to say this, but in my opinion, it won't matter what we say. The entire focus of the national media is going to be on Washington at that point. So it's going to basically be an argument between, and I will say it, it's like after watching my fellow Democrats, Californians, whatever, at the time behave this way, they'll bitch, but they won't do a thing about it. They will make it a year-long complaint fest or a 4-year complaint fest. They'll simply keep complaining and keep complaining and do nothing about it. It's the old thing that basically goes, the Republicans have no conscience and the Democrats have no spine. It's like if anyone were to, I mean, at that point we're in good shape. We can make the argument here in California that the America that you knew and loved is not there anymore. But from a national media standpoint, I believe that there will be very little oxygen for us to talk, at least initially. we'll have a year or so to gather our argument. And as it gets worse and worse in the United States under illegitimate dictator Trump, we may see ourselves starting to gain more and more traction.
Okay, very good. Always nice insights, very wise. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Sue Hirsch, are you out there? Sue, what's your opinion if Trump wins re-election,
I don't see.
or if he doesn't doesn't step down? Sue? Okay, we're going to go to Shankar. Shankar, are you there?
Hello.
Shankar? Yes.
So Hal, dude, I love you, bro, but I see things a little bit differently, and I was talking about this earlier. So look, so you're basically asking what happens November 9th, because both those scenarios equal the same thing. Trump and his red hats will be in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So look, that's that. We have to think about, our response should be, how are we going to use that to get more power back to California? So Trump is president. What does that mean for us? Does that mean he's going to cut our funds like he said he was going to last month? He said he was going to cut his funds. He was going to cut our funds, and we were hoping that he was going to lose. Oh, he lost, and he's still president. So how can we keep those funds? That should be our concern. And then push it with the people. We got and then use it to get more power. Get states right. Get our shit to us. We need to use whatever that outcome is of Trump winning, of Trump in the White House, to get the power here. We got to keep it here, and we can play it with the press. Guys, the Trumpers do that all the time. I know two wrongs don't make a right. I know a lot of people don't like doing this tactic, but they make shit up. They make fake victim stories up and play the victim all the time. Trump does it. That's his whole game plan. That's all he does is play the victim. And he gets support. He gets the back. He gets the media. And guys, I'm open to that. If Trump is in charge again from the floor, I'm open to that. What is Trump threatening California with? What are we losing here? Let's multiply it times 10 and tell everybody. Because if we don't do that, look, every major social change that happened in history, what was written in the history books is not what really happened. Rosa Parks, inside job. Civil War, all about the banks. There is a whole backstory about on every single major social change in history. We've got to make that too, dudes. So November 9th, when Trump is still sitting up there, what are we worried? What is he going to take away from us that we need to stop? And we need to publicize that. And we need to hit that over and over again, and maybe make up some legislation, make up some rules, make it something where people in California are galvanized to say, okay, yeah, he's over there, but we do not want him affecting us in this way, and then get power for the state, get power for California. That's how I see it playing any of those scenarios out where Trump is winning, because I already knew he was going to win. Biden is not. And if Biden wins, and Biden may win, he's probably got this whole thing rigged up, but Trump has the he's not going anywhere. Trump isn't going anywhere. It doesn't matter if Biden wins. Trump isn't going anywhere. But even if Biden wins, same scenario. What is Biden going to do that's going to fuck California up? And let's play that out and get more power for California again. So that's all I got to say about that, Marcus.
We'll get to Biden. So let's go to Jason. Thoughts, feelings, Trump wins or Trump doesn't win and doesn't leave. And then we're going to go to Matt, and then we're going to go to Hannah. Jason, thoughts?
Yeah. So personally, I do not think that Joe Biden's going to win. I think that the DNC has undermined the will of the people yet again. And because of that, the United States is, in my opinion, going I refer to Democrats and Republicans as Demopublicans and Republicrats because I see them, my opinion, as both the same thing. They are the evil that has brought down democracy, destroyed democracy. America is not a democratic nation anymore and hasn't been for a while. The founding fathers wanted more than two-party system, and all we've got is two parties. Now, do I think that Trump would lose and stay in power? You know, honestly, I really hope not. I do have to say honestly, I could see it as a strong possibility that if he loses, he might actually try for something using certain legal mechanisms that one could use to, say, make themselves into the dictator of America. Because there are tons of loopholes in American law, and some of them can be used by the president. So it is a possibility. I really hope it doesn't happen, but honestly, I think that he will actually win because he's got his red hats, his fanatics. They will turn up and vote for him. They are going to. They have practically already voted for him for his second term when he got sworn in the first time.
Jason, what do we say if that happens? So if it happens.
Well, yeah. So if that happens, I could see there's a couple of possibilities, and you know, it's impossible to be able to say, you know, oh, well, this will happen. Theoretically, he loses. He uses loopholes to make himself basically the dictator. If he uses legal loopholes, uses the American legal system, there's not really much that America can do about it. And if California is stuck as part of America still at that point in time, then California is going to be America stuck with Trump, stuck in that sinking boat, right? What we talked about you got to get that lifeboat away from the ship before it slips under the water, or it will pull you down with it. I think that if we don't get our independence back before all of this goes down, we will be stuck with 4 more years of Trump Stoketon. Because whether he wins or loses, you know, I'm kind of right there with Shankar. Whether he wins or loses, I honestly don't see him going anywhere. If he loses, he very well easily could use law to make himself stay. If he wins, which is what I think is actually going to happen, he doesn't even need to do all that. He's just around for another 4 more. So I really see that there will be half of the country that will be torn and angry, yet not really driven to do much. The complainers, right? What we've talked about some people have an opinion and they just want to vocalize it, but they don't want to think about how to solve the issue. They don't want to think about, you know, actually getting involved in solving the issue. They just want to complain about the issue. There will be a good portion of the country that's that, which means there won't be enough of the country up in arms, not literally up in arms, but, you know, out in the streets, marching, protesting, picketing, talking about how this is injustice and we need this fixed. There won't be enough people. You'd have to have the majority support to recall the president. And so honestly, I can see the United States getting stuck with Trump and just having to put up with it. Like that's the outcome I see. If California does not gain its independence back before then we will be included in that America stuck with Trump.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Matt Owens.
Well,
Real quick, before you say anything, I just want to remind everybody, we are not asking if you think it's going to happen. We are asking if it happens, what is a smart thing we all can say other than, oh my God, that happened. So given that Trump wins election or Trump doesn't agree to step down, how do we respond?
well, as you know, we're already preparing a response because election day this year will happen on California Independence Day, November 3rd. This happens to happen. So we're already, this discussion is in preparation for things that we're going to do. I think as far as the state government goes, they would have ground, particularly if Trump lost constitutionally, that is to say in the Electoral College, but refused to step down. They would definitely have grounds to not recognize him as the President of the United States.
There you go.
Draw recognition. And I saw this happen in Mexican politics the first and second time that AMLO won the election and had it stolen from him. He set up an office of legitimate president. It's sort of like Juan Guaido is trying to imitate. But AMLO's the real deal. He's got a real party behind him. And he won. Okay. It took him 3 times to get the Mexican state to recognize the election results, but finally they were so overwhelming in both houses of Congress, they had to, and he's there. Okay. But no, if Trump loses in the Electoral College, but gets his people out and gets enough federal recognition that he stays in defiance of the federal Constitution, then Governor Newsom would have, and we would certainly add to that, our voices that say that we do not recognize Donald J. Trump as the legitimate president of the United States. We're already doing that relatively because of the problem with the Electoral College. But if even the Electoral College says, no, Biden got it, and Trump refuses to step down, then it goes from a relative point to an absolute point. But again, what if he does, manage the Electoral College, which is all he has to do? Again, we would say that this just goes to show that the differences between California and the United States are irreconcilable. They are irreconcilable. And again, this probably would be a case of Newsom lagging rather than leading. But
Okay.
we would be out there and we would be saying that our differences are irreconcilable. It's time for a divorce.
Okay. Sorry, I got to go in about 30 minutes, and I want to cover a couple more topics. So we're going to go to Hannah. Matt, thank you. You did a great job. Really great. I loved your answer. Everyone's doing great. And this is the first time I want to say thank you to Jason. This is your first conference, and you did great, Jason. And I want to say thank you to Hal for being here. Thank you to Shankar. And thank you to Matt. And thank you to Hannah. We make it happen. This is a great discussion. A lot of intelligent points. So let's go to Hannah. Hannah, in about 5 minutes, you've looked more at this than any of us. So in roughly about 5 minutes, what do we say? What can we do? Trump either wins the election or he doesn't, and he won't step down.
Well, first thing, 2 things. I want to make two really key points. First thing, Shankar is correct that it's very important for everyone in this movement to be willing to frame a narrative that is politically productive, as opposed to being strictly accurate or conservative. Number two, the real crisis is that we will not know that Donald Trump has been legitimately reelected even if it is said that he is reelected. Case in point, what if enough Republican-dominated states decide they're not going to hold the general election? Why would they do that? Well, one reason why it strikes me is the Wisconsin experience, where you had Wisconsin. They tried to cancel the election and tried to prevent mail-in balloting, and what they managed to achieve, as I could tell, was they discouraged senior citizens from voting, which effectively made the vote more heavily Democratic than it would have been otherwise, thus for becoming exactly the opposite of what they wanted to achieve in the first place. Therefore, the better course might say basically not to hold the election. Now, under the Constitution, if nobody gets more than 270 electoral votes, there is no president, and the election goes to the House of Representatives. If it goes to the House of Representatives, that's one factor. Another factor is the states are able to assign their electoral votes by any means they choose. And one of the means that's been suggested is that it be the state legislature, in a Republican-dominated state legislature. Now, the picture here would be Republican-dominated state legislature in a state that's a battleground state, a Michigan, a Pennsylvania, an Iowa, an Ohio. Those states, it would make very important that the legislature just says, okay, here we go. What about a state like Michigan? Some people suggest it, and that's not me who's been suggesting. This is much more expertise, people with much higher expertise, suggested, well, the legislature could appoint one bunch of electors, and the Democratic governor could appoint a different set of electors, because nothing in the Constitution says how that's going to be decided either. All right. I reference you to the election of 1876, where 11 southern states, I believe, sent different sets of two parallel sets of elections. Republicans in those states, mostly African Americans and liberal whites, sent a Republican slate of electors, and the Democrats. Now, the difference was, obviously, we didn't have a civil war break out in 1877. And the reason we simply didn't was because the two parties cooperated to prevent such a problem from such a disaster from occurring. So, of course, it may have happened the fact that only 16 years earlier, the United States of America had a civil war. But be it as it may, that's what they did. I don't see such cooperation happening in 2020, or 2021. One more thing I've been saying, read the 12th Amendment, because what it would allow for, when the election goes to the House of Representatives, guys, it doesn't go on the basis of, well, there's so many congressmen and they're going to decide who it's going to be. Because if that's the case, the Democratic Party candidate would have an enormous advantage. Instead, it goes by states. The delegation within that state. So in other words, we're back to the same old problem, maybe worse, where our electoral votes would have no more stronger weight than the votes from Wyoming or wherever. And so as a result, it goes state by state, and thus we're right back. In other words, the Republicans have a powerful incentive to, in fact, prevent the election from occurring. So in other words, Marcus, I have to take your question to say, I think you're asking the wrong question or a problem, because you're making assumptions here. Underlying assumption here is that there's going to be a legitimate election with an illegitimate result in which everyone's going to know, and the question is, it's not going to be followed. Could very well be a situation where we will simply not be allowed to know what the legitimate result will be, and we'll be forced to rely on things like public opinion polls. Shankar's got a question, but you're on mute. Or you're just saying hi and you're saying thumbs up. A few people have been doing that.
It's not a question. It's already being set up that way. Hannah, he's setting up the whole mail-in thing. He's setting up for this fraud claim and him being legitimate as president still.
Right. Let's not forget, Donald Trump claimed that in 2016 election was defrauded him of the popular vote total, because that man and his supporters literally will believe anything that regardless of the actual documented facts.
The
So anyway,
question mark, I think, should be what happens in November when Donald Trump is still here?
right.
What's
Now,
our position?
And I will say that I am okay, our position would be that obviously now is the time for California to declare itself independent. That should be the obvious answer.
Why? Why? What is he doing to us so bad?
Doesn't matter.
So we need to set that up.
That's right. I like it this way. I'm speaking, remember, as someone who has sworn 3 times to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. And I look at it this way. When I pledge allegiance to the flag, I pledge allegiance to the republic for which it stands, with liberty and justice for all. Not merely a state in the international system. And that's why I would say that now is the time to declare independence. And I think that, remember that, let's put in another little ssin. Again, remember those battleground states, the Ohios, the Michigans, and places like that? That's where the violence would break out. And because after all, those states are very divided, politically speaking. They're 50-50. That's where the violence will break out. We know Donald Trump, because he's already been saying things like this, will call out his supporters to use armed force to get their way. We saw in the state of Michigan where the legislature chose to cancel the remainder of the legislative session rather than to risk gunfire.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think what I'm trying to say is that's what would happen. This could easily break out into a spreading civil war, in which case there would be states like California, like Washington, like Oregon that would simply say, we do not wish to be, let me phrase this. Okay, if I'm speaking to Governor Newsom, if Governor Newsom calls into his office, I'm going to say, we are declaring provisional independence, provisional until order is restored in the United States of America or some other resolution is reached. Okay, and you know, and any attempt to use armed force in California and the other states will be suppressed by force. All right, I think that is, to me, the only real question, and I guess I won't go into other questions about this, but I would say that
one minute, please.
no, I'm sorry, I thought I could do it very quickly, but I don't. But I always ask a good question. The simple thing is, we can't presume that we will know the result, that there will be a legitimate result, but I think. Excuse me. I feel there will be a stronger reaction than HAL opined. Maybe it's just my faith in humanity.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. And hey, folks, I love it when we don't agree. That means there's more to think about. I don't know how to think about these things. So I love it when we have a variety of opinions and we go forward. Okay, the next one I want to do is, what if Biden wins? And I want to go to HAL LOHR. HAL, what do we say if Biden wins? And people are like, America's fixed. It's great. HAL, what is the reaction the movement should have if a Biden win?
Where is America fixed? It's your question. Where is America fixed? How did that fix it? What did it change? What's better? As a Californian, what's better? How's your life improved? Did Paradise finally get its FEMA check? Are they closing down the detention centers on the border? What's fixed? What's better? Where's your health care? Did you get your health care? What's fixed? What's better? Or is it the same old America, which just is asking you to feel better about it?
Ooh. Hot.
Nothing is fixed. Nothing is better. Nothing for a Californian is going to go forward. Are they going to give us back? They're going to give us back our deficit money? Are they going to get rid of the tax law they just put in place?
Ooh, good.
Is Joe Biden going to divest all those conservative judges? Not then the election didn't, for Californians, it didn't do a damn thing.
Awesome. Let's go to Jason. So, Jason, Joe Biden wins the presidency. Everybody's, oh, it's great. Evil Cheeto's gone. Everything's perfect. We don't need to worry about an independent California. Jason, what do we say as a movement then? What do you think?
Well, before I directly answer that, I would like to just state that I totally wholeheartedly agree with what Hal said there. I think that if Biden wins, there might be a serious inclination to jump to America's fix. And our stance would need to be, no, it's not. It's not fixed. He just got elected. What has he done? Has he undone all of these things that have been screwing over not just California and Californians, but so many millions of people around the world are affected when America and California are being basically snubbed like this by our own leadership. So, if Biden wins, my response would basically be, like, and you had hinted on it earlier when you were saying, do we just go for this guy because he's better than the Cheeto, even though there are things that he has done, things that he has voted, things that he stands on one side of the fence that is the opposite from where we here in California generally tend to stand. Things like, immigration, women's equality, LGBTQ issues. Like, there's a serious list of things that he and his values do not match up with California at all. I mean, sure, there might be a few things like, sure, he's not the Cheeto and he's probably not a Nazi. Is he still a Republican, part of the corporate autocracy, part of what has brought down America, what has destroyed democracy in America? Yes, he is a part of that. All of those mainstream politicians that will not do anything but bail out big banks and corporations, give them tax-free for the rest of their lives, and all the rights of an actual person. But if they're actual citizens dying or in need, they can fend for themselves. The Democrats and the Republicans, it's one coin. They're two sides, but it's the same damn coin. And it needs to be thrown away because it's not made of silver, it's not made of gold, it's made of trash metal. And we don't want it. This is the golden state.
Okay, that's very cool, very cool. Sorry, just making housekeeping notes. Okay, let's go to Matt. Joe Biden wins. What do we say?
And just to preface by saying he may well, because enough Republicans may defect to actually get him in. So I'm fully supportive of what's been said so far, to which I would also add all the hope and change that was invested back when Obama came in. Did he stop the wave of deportations? No, he intensified it. Did he stop the attacks on the Bill of Rights? under the auspice of USA Patriot Act? No, he intensified it. Did he stop the foreign wars in the United States? Absolutely, positively not. Did he stop bailing out trillionaires? No, he did not. And so we already have, the bad news is we already have a pretty good taste of what Biden will and will not do based on Obama's performance. He'll be, dare I say it, Obama light. And he's nowhere near as apt as as Obama was. Obama was a pretty smart guy. Watch this guy stumble through things. So Obama, Biden's going to be sort of the dim version of Obama. Okay. So yeah, absolutely. We will have to continue to persevere. And here's the thing. Once again, Baja leads the way. There was a time when MIBC and AMLO and the Morena Party all fought on the same side against corrupt Mexican government after corrupt Mexican government. In 2018, that changed. AMLO became the Mexican president. His party, Morena, became the governing party in both houses of the Mexican Congress. So the change that a lot of them had wanted to see looked like it had happened. So they're like, okay, let's see what's going to happen. Is the Morena government going to address our grievances on how much more money we pay out than we get in on the Baja Peninsula? No. Is the Morena government going to have a substantially, not theoretically, but substantially different policy towards indigenous Mexicans, towards the indigenous people that are fleeing Central America? No. So they're still there, they're still strong, and we must do the same. If Biden, if Biden does pull it out of the hat, we must remain strong. And again, Baja, MIBC, they've shown us, they've demonstrated how to be strong in the case of, a party that's fighting the same people that we're fighting at the moment. At the moment, we'll have to fight them for our independence, just like MIBC is now having to fight the Morenista government. Okay. Oh, Biden, yes. Potatoes, oh, Biden, yes.
Okay. Sue Hirsch. Sue, are you there? Okay. Shankar. Shankar, are you there? Okay.
Hello.
Hannah.
Yo, I'm right here.
Oh, Shankar.
Hey, what's up, man?
If Joe Biden wins the office, and then we'll go to Hannah next. So Shankar and then Hannah. Shankar, what happened? What did we say? Joe Biden wins. Oh, it's all great. Everything's fine now. What is an intelligent perspective or narrative for us to put out there?
So I'm only concerned with Californians. And right now, there's not a Californian that likes Joe Biden. I believe Joe Biden got a 3% bump from Bernie supporters here in California. 3%. That's it, man. So my main concern is, how are we going to convince our Californians that Biden don't mean shit. Biden doesn't mean jack nothing is changing. I mean, nothing has changed since I don't have an intelligent response. Nothing changes for me. The game plan is still the same. What is Biden doing to threaten California? And we got to get the fuck out. I mean, it may not seem as urgent because Biden's Biden, but nothing's changed, man. It's the same thing. It's we're still getting fucked at the end. I don't know. What's our response? It's the same response as if it was Trump as president or anybody else. So I hope that makes sense to you guys, but that's the way I see it, man. I see no difference. Nothing's changed. We're still getting hosed here, guys. We're still getting screwed. I don't see a difference between Trump and Biden. So sorry, Marcus. Looks like he took off. Well, Hannah, you want to go?
Marcus is still here. I won't.
I'm
Yeah,
here.
I guess he has
I'm
a
here.
question.
Hannah's next. Hannah's next.
Thank you. So,
Sorry, too much coffee.
first, I want to say that I actually I've already mentioned some of the reasons why I think Biden is actually a strong candidate, but I just want to point that out to say that I disagree with that analysis. But the question I'm asking, I really want to ask Marcus is, once again, are we talking about a scenario in which Biden is recognized as having won the election, having won the Electoral College, and then becomes president of the United States? Are we talking about a situation in which he's been elected, he's won the Electoral College, but that victory is in dispute?
No. He wins it the whole way, and Trump steps down.
And he steps down. Okay. Still, the next question would be what's the likelihood that some of the strongest Trump supporters will not, in fact, launch their own secession movement? We all remember the response when Obama got elected. Racism hit levels that we'd never seen before. And a lot of these people literally are they treat Trump like Jim Jones, that they would literally die for him, and they proudly declare it. So, and remember, I'm a historian. The Civil War broke out largely because of Southerners convinced that there would be no future for slavery in their, they wanted a white supremacist government, and they saw that white supremacy was slipping away, and that's why they declared themselves to be no longer America. So, in that circumstance, that's yet another scenario. But I will say that maybe you can call me a wet, if you will, but I will also say that we know that the rise of Donald Trump approximately doubled support for independence in California prior, and that if Biden gets in and he becomes president of the United States, if the Democrats have a decent majority in the United States Senate and they still control the House of Representatives, then it would make it very difficult to continue to propose California independence. However, I don't believe that, and again, so I guess I look on the basis of, so what Marcus was trying to say. He's trying to say, what is our contingency plan as opposed to what the probability of it is. And my feeling would be, well, I would suggest at that point, we should then refocus our efforts on the things that we can do. Like, I know they sound like things I want to be doing, but one, debating over California history standards, like trying to get people to declare their identity with California. I mean, after all, I always point out, Texas people have a great deal of loyalty, they're devoted to, but Texas on their shirts and all the red, they wear cowboy hats, they have a complete Texas identity. Nobody thinks Texas is going to be leaving the United States of America anytime soon. So they managed to do both nationalistic and they identify with Texas and they consider themselves patriotic Americans. So we can do all those sort of things. Obviously, much more outreach with the Latino community, etc. We'll basically reach that. Let's put it this way: that circumstance is one in which there will be so much time and lack of pressure that we will have plenty of time to decide what to do at that time. My concern is a scenario. Something like, hey, Matt, remember when the Russian hardliners tried to overthrow Gorbachev in 1991? I mean, the USSR did not fall apart by people in college auditoriums calmly discussing this in an academic, it just fell apart. And the leaders who were there, the elected leaders, particularly like leaders of the Russian states, rapidly decided what to do. Under those circumstances, that's what I'm concerned about, frankly. The scenario that we're talking about is something in which I think we should just keep doing what we're doing, refocus our efforts, but California independence is not in the cards, certainly unless circumstances change, and particularly change as far as that identification with California. That I think is paramount. Seeing America as the bad guy, which is, of course, what the wars, they talk about, the focusing on the wars about, things like that, I think would be ways in which we go. I mean, because we're dealing with right now an American government that considers white supremacy to be a key organizing principle. Presumably under that's a good point, right? I mean, I'll point out. Well, I think we definitely know. I know what there was some things that Biden has said, but he's nothing like Donald Trump when it comes to racial issues. So obviously that would change. I think it'd be. I think it's important to be. I would say that, yeah, but I don't think that's a scenario. But I actually think it's. I honestly think it might be less than 50%. Maybe I'm too pessimistic, but I think that's less than 50%. I think he will win the election. I think he will be recognized by the world as having won the election. But I don't think he will be allowed to serve. Or he will not be allowed to serve in a peaceful, ordinary process like we've always had. I mean, I will make this one more point. Let's not remember, it was Donald Trump who refused to even have a transition team. Do you remember that? Right? For decades and decades, they've planned to transfer power, but the guys refused to even meet with the Obama team, especially after Chris Christie was fired. Chris Christie got fired, and then they put new people in, and those people just threw it all up in the air. And so the chaos of the Trump administration actually began before his inauguration. End of story. End scene.
Okay. So we have time for one last topic. I'm going to get the topic going, and then I'm going to leave. I got to pay an awesome web expert who's giving fantastic advice to HAL LOHR on the California Independence website. So let me get this topic going. I'm going to take a step back. Everybody, please. I'll do a few, and then I'm going to have to leave intermittently by 2:30. So the last scenario, and I just want to say, y'all did wonderful. This is perfect. This is exactly what we need to be doing. We'll get better at it, but we're entertaining scenarios and having some way to think about them. And I got to tell you, I stay up on this, but like right now, I feel so much better educated and prepared for if Trump wins or if Biden wins after just listening to all of you, because people have different perspectives. Y'all don't agree. It's great. It really makes me think about what can and puts me in a good position, firm ground to respond. This is success. I want to be clear, success. So last topic, and then I'm going to, I'll do a few people talking and then we'll drop out. What happens if another pandemic comes back? Wave 2 of coronavirus or alligator flu. I don't know, something comes out of nowhere. This is deadlier. This is worse. People dying in the streets. And it's the federal government failure of response and California having to step into the void. And it's even deadlier. Are Californians going to be cool and calm and wait for federal instruction? Or are we just going to say, screw these people, let's secede? So, second pandemic comes, second wave of coronavirus, or a new pandemic. What happens? How do we respond? I want to go to HAL LOHR first, and then we'll go from there. Hal, what happens? What do we say?
Okay, well, first off, I don't think we're done at all with the first one. I think this thing about waves and what have you isn't the true discussion. What we're seeing with COVID is, technically speaking, it's plateaued, but we're getting more cases every day. It's not really going down. In fact, in many places, it's going up. In Orange County, it's going up thanks to the protests largely. I mean, but in answer to the question as put out, I don't think America can handle another crisis right now. I don't think they financially can handle it. I don't think they institutionally are capable of it. Short of bringing in the army, which is the only thing they have not really tried yet. And how you're going to shoot a virus, I don't know. But so that brings us to the local response. It brings us forward in the discussion that California's response to this was largely successful. We talk about 1,000 people or 2,000 people on the Sacramento steps complaining, but 80%, 90% of Californians actually agreed with the lockdown and still do. People, California values were people over profit, and they remain pretty steadfast in this. How this affect, I mean, what we're going to see and what we're going to be able to talk about is exactly what we're seeing now. The federal government has utterly failed California on this. This pandemic, this first COVID outbreak, and so far it hasn't been as lethal as, say, Ebola at this level. We had an Ebola outbreak at this level. And the federal government utterly failed in their response. And now they're talking about withholding. Now the federal government is talking about either withholding funds or the fact that they simply don't have them to basically help us recoup our losses. The next one, we're going to be facing dystopian levels of poor response. Yeah, at that point, it's one of those, all the oaths and all the flags of a failed state don't really matter at that point. If the federal government, it's a simple discussion. If the federal government can't do anything for California, then what good is it? What good is it? Couldn't handle it. You couldn't handle a bug. You couldn't biggest economy on the planet can't handle a virus. Can't handle healthcare. Can't take care of your own people. Not a hard discussion.
Okay, that was sobering and deeply insightful. And,
always sobering. That's what I did.
Yeah, that was sobering. Okay, let's go to Jason Wright. So, Jason, same question, but here's the thing, everybody. I'm going to take off. Please.
Wait, dude. You got to hear mine, bro, because it plays right into how you love this.
Shankar, then Jason. Shankar, then Jason.
So look. The federal government isn't ready for this. I have a sticker on my truck. I haven't put it up yet. It's in my truck. It says, God bless COVID-19. And here's why. Here's why it says that. Because right now, California just went broke on this. The federal government doesn't have the money for it. Another one hits. It's the end of the United States economy. It's our chance to say, California to say, hey, you know what? You know that money you owe us? Oh, just forget about it. You go your way, we go ours. They love it. Because you know how much money we are asking for them? And for them not to have it, they'll be just like, okay, you know what? We don't like you, really, go ahead. This could be our out. And guys, which state in the U.S. handled this COVID crisis better than any other state? Period. Hands down. Which is why we're not worried about it too much over here, because we're proactive. Our state did. We did. Which companies in the United States put out the effort to battle this virus? Our companies did. Our Google did. Apple did. Facebook did. Elon Musk did. I didn't see any East Coast companies coming out and helping out at all. They got contracts. Dude, this is the best thing. It's happening in 2 months, guys. That's what I'm saying. We got to get our argument ready to go. We got to get our whole shit ready. Our page, everything, like our stance ready to go, because it's a shitload of money. They love these bailouts. They love bailouts, dude. But this one's massive because there's nobody working to pay off the bailout, dude. Yeah. So, fuck, man. This is our out, guys. And if we can reflect this somehow, man, to say, hey, you go your way, we go ours. Don't worry about that money later. I mean, dude, it's written for us, bro. It's written for us, man. They'll probably have an election in Congress in Washington, D.C. to get us out if they forget to slow. But that's all I got to say about that, man. Jason, go for it, bro.
Make
Thank
sure you
God
get
for COVID.
everybody. Be respectful. Everybody gets a few minutes to talk. I'm gonna go. Daniel's recording this, so it'll get posted. I will talk to y'all on the phone. And here's a key thing. I love all you guys. And even the ones of you that I don't necessarily agree with all the time, or maybe I get a little frustrated. The fact is I mean, there's 300 hardcore people who want this to happen. And you all mean the world to me. Even if I don't always agree with you. Even if maybe I'm frustrated that day. There's 300 of us that are gonna make this shit happen. I love you all. Leave it there.
Later, Marcus.
There.
Yeah, and thank you, Marcus. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your leadership.